1 minute, 1 minute. There's the pause button. Hi. Sorry, I didn't expect to see you there. Welcome back. I guess you're wanting to hear another chapter? Well, I'll try my best. Yeah, my reading skills aren't exactly the best, but I'm working on it. Anyways. Heirs to Fate, Chapter 1. Let's see. Trees flashed before my eyes. Vibrant greens stained gray by the rising half-moon. Prickles tugged at my hair. I left a couple of golden strands behind as I shoved my way between them. Still, I ran under the peaceful foliage. I was the only thing disturbing the silence of the sleeping trees of the forest I flew through. My village was burning. I'd seen it from the hill above this now cursed forest. Mama! Papa! Where were they? Had they gotten out? I didn't think they could have. Not with the amount of time it had taken that beast to burn down the whole place. I hoped against all hope that they'd come in search of me. I knew they wouldn't have. They'd been letting me walk through the forest alone since I was first able to walk on my own. As long as I wasn't home too late, they didn't mind. Even for a young girl, I could take care of myself. No! I gasped as I left the forest behind and emerged into a pale moonlight. It was too late. The small wooden huts, which had formed a circle of my village, were already burning to a smoldering pile of embers. Not a soul survived. Everything I had ever known and loved. Gone in a few seconds. I should have been there to help them escape. The thick smoke in the air caused a fit of choking coughs to rack my chest. My coughing brought on the monster which had destroyed my life as though I had summoned it. I could smell its awful breath as it came forward to the ruined remains. It lumbered through the flames with a proud gracefulness, as though it in itself were made of smoke. I couldn't understand. They were supposed to be our protectors. They didn't destroy harmless villages for no reason. They loved looking after us. That's what we had all been taught. They fought off all who meant us harm and kept peace within the land of Darrett. Yet here it looms, out of the burned remains of my home. It leveled its evil red eyes on me. Its black muzzle was splashed red, and its teeth were equally stained. It glared at me as it approached through the lingering flames. Fear flooded my heart and rooted my feet to the ground. Black scales glittered in the remains of the embers surrounding it. It inhaled deeply, preparing to roast me alive. There was nothing I could do as I glimpsed my own death within those large, evil eyes. The last thing I saw as it prepared to release its fury on me was a spear which whizzed above my head and buried itself into the beast's exposed neck. Glowing orange blood sprayed forth and covered my face. I dropped to the ground, clawing at my eyes. Pain beyond anything I could have imagined burned deeper and deeper into my eye sockets. I screamed in pain as the dragon roared its last and slumped onto the ground. I could feel the air being crushed out of me as the weight of its great body landed on top of my frail one. More boiling orange blood covered the rest of me as my screams were cut short. I lost track of all save the pain as I was suddenly able to scream again. I snapped awake and sat up in my cot, still screaming as though one of my legs had just been chopped off. Breathing heavily, I opened my eyes to the darkness that had become familiar to me over the last 10 years. "Kayla?" asked a familiar male voice I recognized at once as its owner entered my small room at a drowsy run. "Are you all right? Was it that dream again? You were screaming in your sleep." I nodded without answering him. I reached for the table beside my bed, which held a cup of water on it, and took a drink. You know, it still amazes me that you seem to know where everything is, muttered the man. His long hair swished as he shook his head. He sounded to be roughly 21 or so. You're blind, slightly deaf, and still know everything I do, even if I do try and move your stuff around. I can read your mind, Lyle, I gasped before taking another sip from the cup. I grinned broadly at the annoyed face I knew he would use. In truth, I couldn't. When I'd been hit by the dragon's blood nearly 10 years ago, while I was 8, my irises had been burned a pale red from the lovely blue they'd been before, and my hearing wasn't as good as it could have been. At first I despaired. It took me several days to discover I could feel vibrations around me like never before. Every time someone moved around me, I could sense the vibration to the floor when they reached my feet. I could also feel the vibrations of speech hitting my chest. It took me a while to couple the small amount of what I could hear and the vibrations I felt into an understandable speech that I could interpret. It was a few months after that in which I learned to use vibrations to see the room around me. One good stomp allowed me to discern everything I could grasp about a given room, from the exact position of everything within to the amount of space could be contained. I could also tell how far away I was from everything as well. It took much longer to be able to do it without stomping around all the time. Human beings, and every other kind of living being I came across, held a certain pulse to them. It was as though I was feeling their heartbeat. No one had been able to sneak up on me since my accident. It was something of which I was extremely grateful for. Dragons and all other magical creatures, and all other creatures who had magic in them, shone in my mind like a brilliant star. The more powerful the magic within the creature, the brighter they appeared. That is why I knew everything Lyle did. He's half-elf. I'm not certain if he knew that himself, but he shone a brilliant turquoise in my mind's eye, but not nearly as bright as those of the full-blooded elves I'd met since this discovery. All elves shone in various hues of green. From what he had told me of his physical description, when they first brought me to this place, he had brown hair and a pale green for the color of his eyes. I had no way of telling exactly what color anything was without outside help, and it was one of the few things I did miss. The only way I saw any color at all was through the magical beings I met, and when I dreamt. Hardly, grumbled Lyle, sitting on the edge of the bed next to me. I don't know what magic you possess, but you can't read my mind. It's not magic, I said, snuggling closer to him. I'm fully human. I would have had to have been born with magic to be able to use it. You, on the other hand... I can become a lynx, said Lyle solemnly. His heartbeat against my skin was calming my nerves as he put an arm around my shoulder. Not exactly the most impressive of wildcats. That doesn't mean anything, I said, draining my cup and placing it on the table next to the pitcher. You don't have to be the most powerful or the biggest to win a battle. So you keep telling me, said Lyle, fingering the strands of my blonde hair, streaked red from my encounter with the dragon. Why don't we settle this over a little archery competition, I suggested, turning my sightless eyes on him. I flicked a couple tufts of his shaggy hair out of his face. Fine, said Lyle, hanging his head as he headed for the door. By all rights, you shouldn't even be able to beat me at that as well. Great, I said, as I grabbed my bowed quiver from beside the door frame of my small room. You might want to get yourself a shirt as well. End chapter 1. tune in next Friday, and I'll see if I can post Chapter 2 for you then. Now, if you don't mind, I have to continue the story, which hopefully before you guys catch up with me, but we shall see. Until then, back to typing for me.